This show also changes my perception of the Empire in general in Rogue One and the original trilogy in an amazing way. And I'll comment on this again later as we get deeper into the review. But you realize, like, oh, the Empire, you are always destined to lose. And the Death Star, it's not really the showcase of their ultimate power. It's not that. That's not what the Death Star represents at all to me anymore. It's a showcasing of their absolute desperation. That they've realized that we cannot keep doing what we've been doing. We cannot keep up this oppressive regime, oppressing the schmucks and the Joe Schmoes of this universe because it's falling apart. Rebelling is springing up everywhere. And the only thing that we have is fear. And what is fear personified? The Death Star. That's what is. Our politicians are rebelling against us. Planets, we're losing control of all these planets, like all these populations. We don't have them. We have to put everything into this one project because that's what the Death Star is. It's fear. It's fear of ultimate destruction. And you realize, like, by A New Hope, once Luke and Han and Leia and the rebels and everyone involved destroy the Death Star, the Empire is lost. It's the beginning of the end for them because they don't have anything else. Because once that's gone, the rest of the galaxy will spring up in rebellion. Hope has returned. I think it's safe to say that Andor Season 2, just Andor as a whole, absolutely stuck the landing. I mean, when it was even first announced years ago, that all these big, Star Wars shows, The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Andor, spin-off of Rogue One, that they were going to do this series, everyone went, we're like, really? I was like, okay. Like, I really like Cassian Andor. I really like Diego Luna's performance in Rogue One. And him and also Alan Tudyk as K2SO, I think they were the highlights of that particular film. But I was like, all right, well, we kind of already know what the fate of this character, like, what more could you add to it? And after watching these 2 seasons, after watching the last several episodes of this series, I realized that, and I think everyone has realized that has watched it, they're saying so much has been added to Star Wars, the mythos, the rich context that has been added to not only Rogue One, but the original trilogy is incredibly vast. It's made it so much more intimate and somber, and at the same time, incredibly hopeful. Like, Andor is the best Star Wars content since the original trilogy. And I don't think that's a ridiculous thing to say. I don't think that's a hyperbolic thing to say. I think it's true. What Tony Gilroy, and so much respect to Tony Gilroy and his collaborators, the filmmakers that worked under him, his additional writers, everyone that brought this show together, the performers, they did such a incredible job bringing, honestly, life back to Star Wars. Star Wars as a franchise has had some serious ups and downs for the last 25 years now. And it's like, yes, a lot of people are criticizing Disney, and rightfully so, Lucasfilm rightfully so. But I remember the prequel era. That wasn't great. That was a particularly low point for Star Wars. But unlike the prequels, which, provided new context for the original trilogy, those movies took so much away from those original films. It's like Darth Vader is this whiny, bratty kid that's complaining about sand and is saying ridiculous stuff like the friendship that we were told about that Ben Kenobi had, Anakin had. Turns out that didn't exist, whatsoever. Like the Clone Wars was just incredibly lame. I mean, there's so many aspects of the prequels I feel like took away from the original trilogy. But unlike the prequels, and the Clone Wars that came afterwards, which tried to fix the prequels, essentially tried to fill in the holes and capitalize on things that were introduced but then were horribly executed. What Andor does is it adds so much to what came before, to those original movies, to Rogue One, which already helped the original trilogy, adding so much to it. Who stole the original Death Star plans? Who were those people that died doing that, made that tremendous sacrifice. We learn even more of that through Andor, thanks to Tony Gilroy and the people that made this show. And, as I've been saying, as I've been covering this series, I guess, for the past couple of years, but certainly for these more recent episodes, everything across the board, from the writing to the stories themselves, the characters to the production design, production values, which very expensive show, and you can tell the practical effects weaved in with the CGI effects, just everything. They just produce something that's truly spectacular and amazing that I have had such an emotional reaction. It reminds me, and especially after rewatching Rogue One with you guys and rewatching the original trilogy, reminds me, it's like, God, I do love Star Wars. As bad as it can get, and boy, has it gotten bad, I can still point to certain things and go, that's great, that's wonderful, I recommend that. And Andor is going to be one of those things. And, more specifically, what Andor, I think, has done very well, outside of everything I mentioned, is it just shows what it's like for the average Joe, the poor schmuck, living under fascism, living under space fascism. What do those people do? What are their choices? What will inspire them? What will galvanize them to finally fight back? That's what Andor showcases. And these last 3 episodes, where it's like, yes, we literally see moments up to the events of Rogue One, like literally hours before Cassian and K2SO will meet Jyn Erso and learn and steal the Death Star, like all of that. What these last few episodes do is it kind of goes back to the beginning of how the rebellion truly started, with just a couple of people who just had this passion, this ferocity, this anger, but also this hopefulness, and specifically focuses on these last couple of episodes, episode 10 and 11 in particular, where it started with them, specifically Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen Rael and Elizabeth Doulalu as Clea, who have had an interesting dynamic, throughout this entire show, where Luthen is very much like the manipulator, the guy who is trying to connect these disparate groups of rebels together, trying to deal with this information. But as we've seen this season, he's literally drowning under all of it. It's too much now for him to control. He can't, him and Clea can't do anymore. The rebellion, it's grown too big. It's grown too big for them. And they've even been kind of thrown away and dismissed because of certain actions that they've taken, throughout the entire series. And so many of these things have finally caught up to them. But Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård, he's become privy to the information that we all know about the Death Star. What Andor essentially has been leading up to, why the Empire has been so incredibly oppressive for all this time, why they set up the genocide on Gorman, why they're on Jedha, all these other things, why they have these internment camps, these penal colonies, this prison system building. It's all because of the Death Star. What's so interesting, I'll go back to Luthen, I'll go back to Clay in a bit, but this show also changes my perception of the Empire in general, in Rogue One and the original trilogy, in an amazing way. And I'll comment on this again later as we get deeper into the review. But you realize, the Empire, you are always destined to lose, and the Death Star. It's not really the showcase of their ultimate power. It's not that. That's not what the Death Star represents at all to me anymore. It's a showcasing of their absolute desperation. That they've realized that we cannot keep doing what we've been doing. We cannot keep up this oppressive regime, oppressing the schmucks and the Joe Schmoes of this universe, because it's falling apart. Rebelling is springing up everywhere. And the only thing that we have is fear. And what is fear personified? The Death Star. That's what is. Our politicians are rebelling against us. Planets, we're losing control of all these planets, like all these populations. We don't have them. We have to put everything into this one project, because that's what the Death Star is. It's fear. It's fear of ultimate destruction. And you realize, by A New Hope, once Luke and Han and Leia and the rebels and everyone involved destroy the Death Star, the Empire is lost. It's the beginning of the end for them, because they don't have anything else. Because once that's gone, the rest of the galaxy will spring up in rebellion. Hope has returned. And it's just so crazy. I've just never thought of the Empire in that way. I've never thought of the Death Star in the way. It's like, it's a last gasp of desperation for this despotic regime that was already losing so much control. And and the best idea they had of the destruction of the first episode was like, let's just make a second one. And that just completely fell apart. It's like, wow, it just changed my whole perception in the context of what the Death Star represents. It's not the ultimate power of the galaxy. It's its last gasp. It's its last attempt of maintaining any semblance of control through fear. And I just thought that was so brilliant that that's what the series is like pointing to, and that's what it represents. I thought that was so cool and so interesting. But Luthen comes to know about this and sets everything in motion into Rogue One. He finds his information through his contact with the ISB. And at this point, his back's against the wall. The ISB is very aware of his activities at this point. And he kind of has to burn it all away. He has to burn it down and make it some attempt at escape. But we also learn more about like Luthen and Cleia's relationship. Their fascinating dynamic, and we actually have like truly understand like where he came from and where she came from, and we have flashbacks of them for the first time, where Luthen essentially was an Imperial, learning and came to meet Kleia during one of the Empire's many genocides, and kind of takes her in as his daughter, as he kind of abandons the Empire and just becomes a wandering, traveler selling trinkets and things. But they come to witness the atrocities of the Empire across the galaxies. They're just trying to make, a living for themselves. And you realize in these flashbacks and what happens to Luthen and what Kleia has to do, and some amazing sequences, incredible production design. The choreography is just stellar. It feels so much of these episodes feel like, so much of Andor feels like a thriller. It's just like, God, this is so amazing. It's so tragic. It's so somber. But like watching, I realized like none of this the rebellion wouldn't exist without them. It wouldn't have happened without Luthen Vale or Kleia. It all started with them. These two people that came together under tragedy, because of what the Empire was doing and subjugating and murdering huge swaths of people and races. And that anger boiled over, but it still sprung this like little aspect of hope, And like Luthen even says, it's like, they show that he's had to do horrible things to create the Rebel Alliance, to make it what it was, what it will become, what it will achieve. And it also just hits even more that he's like, I'll never see that sunrise. I'll never see that hope. I've already made my choices. I've made my bed. I'm paraphrasing basically, but it's just like, God, there's such a somberness and a tragedy to his character, and how they showcase that in these last couple episodes, I think is absolutely brilliant. While having some great spectacle layered in there. But, of course, you still have Cassian, who was such a central member to the rebellion, is also an incredibly important figure, working with Luthen Vale all the way up to this point, now a captain, now a respected member of the rebellion, still a bit of a rogue, at heart. Everything of K2SO in these episodes, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So funny. It's so interesting. They just talk about Alan Tudyk as K2SO, who does return, of course, in the end of the last arc of the Gorman Massacre, where he's murdering people and he's reprogrammed. And he's so funny. Alan Tudyk just feels so comfortable as character. I love his dynamic of everybody. He's still really scary, though. Even though he's doing these, like, funny things. Like, he'll just go on a diatribe and be like, I was on Coruscant once. I was a part of a parade. Emperor Palpatine was there. Did you know that? And Cassian's like, I guess I had to be there. I wasn't, but I guess I had to be there. It must have been amazing. But the things that they do with him is some stuff that is honestly kind of scary within the world of Star Wars, but I loved because it was so cool and so badass. And again, it just adds, this I keep going back to this show, just adds so much to Rogue One and the original trilogy. So much of these characters makes them feel so rich and thoroughly developed. But but going back to just Luthen Vale and Clea and their relationship, it's so powerful. And the fact that it is the embers that creates this fire, that creates this explosion, it is the Rebel Alliance. I thought it was just so beautiful how they handled that. And I thought it was just so interesting, literally in these last 3 episodes where, because I was wondering what the arc was going to be. Like, I had no idea. I was like, how are you going to follow up the Gorman Massacre? It's like, we're going to go back to the beginning to show essentially how the Rebel Alliance started. In just between 2 people who have a tumultuous, interesting, loving relationship, and everything that they witness is the actual spark, I thought was brilliant. I really love that. While still providing us with that spectacle and setting up everything that we see in Rogue One that eventually leads to that trilogy, and giving so many of even the supporting and tertiary characters from Rogue One more to do. I thought that was great. Like Mochi being in this, being a good friend of Cassian, being like his bro. Like, I love in the one moment bring up K2SO. They're just all playing cards and getting drunk, and K2SO's complaining and being sassy and stuff. It's like, God, this is what I love. It's like, I like these characters. I love their back and forth. The dialogue is spectacular. And then they got to get moving. They have to save some characters that we've really come to enjoy. And then on the Imperial side of things, like, I love where certain characters end up, especially when it comes to Dedra Meero, played by Denise Goh, who had such an amazing last couple episodes. I mean, really, just the entire season has been great. Everything with Cyril during the Gorman genocide, I thought was wonderful. Seeing what happens to her in these next few episodes, and just the ISB in general, I think is really cool and really interesting. And again, it goes back to my point where the Death Star is not the showcase of the Emperor's ultimate power, of the Empire's vast domination of the galaxy. It's literally their last gasp. It's Palpatine's like, this is the fucking ace up my sleeve. This is really all I got after this. After this, I'm kind of screwed. And I thought that was really, really wonderful. And we even see that in the last episode with of this season, with the head of the ISB, which the actor's name I forget off the top of my head, but that actor, who's also been like in Game of Thrones, he was like really, really good in that. He has such a great moment where it actually harkens back, where he brings up like they can't control the message anymore, essentially, because the rebellion has grown too big. And they bring up something from like Andor season 1 in regards to that character who is like essentially writing the Rebel Manifesto. And he's like, this message keeps going out and we just can't control it. And I just love, and just to show that the Empire really has no more control, and the only control that they can have is through fear, is through the Death Star, which that represents. And once that's gone, it's like, it's essentially over for them. I thought that was really, really good. Really, really good. And the one last thing I'll say, there is an epic montage towards the end, which kind of shows the fate of a lot of characters we've come to know. Some are happy, some are sad, some are very well deserved, which is kind of horrifying in a way. And the final shot, what they choose to leave on, again, much like so much of the show, it's so somber and sad. But at the same time, which is I guess what the original trilogy is always about, Rogue One's always about, and Andor essentially is about. It's about hope. It's about like fighting for a better future, and we get that with what we see towards the end, where it made me emotional. It made me very, very emotional. I was like, damn. I wonder what they'll do in the future. If anything, they don't have to, but I wonder. I'm very curious if there'll be a continuation of this series in some form. But what Tony Gilroy and his people gave us, I think, is fantastic. Again, the writing across the board is great. The production values are great. I love these characters. And again, it made me excited to watch Rogue One again. Or having just rewatched Rogue One with you guys, and having just rewatched rewatched original trilogy, is like, oh my God, there's so much now to this that feels even more improved about those movies. And that's the best thing you can do with a prequel. It makes you appreciate what came before even more. And that's what Andor accomplished, which is masterful. It's one of the best prequels of all time. It's one of the best shows this year, one of the best science fiction, fantasy, really thrillers I've seen this year in quite some time. It's one of the best pieces of Star Wars content since the original trilogy. It does so much right. And last thing I'll say is, because people are like, I don't think, Star Wars should be like Andor all the time, or some people just don't like Andor. I'm going to tell you right now, Star Wars needs to be like Andor now. It really, truly does. I know some people's like, you know what? We can have stuff that's like Andor. We have stuff that's not. I'm like, I think for the time being, most of Star Wars should strive to be like Andor. All right? Let's actually write some Star Wars content that is for adults. that actually prioritizes strong stories and characters and the dynamics between them, and have them have fulfilling arcs where you are filled with passion, you like discussing. Like, that's a good thing. That's what Star Wars should strive for. Like, really anything should strive for, but Star Wars desperately needs it. And Andor is a perfect template, a perfect showcase of that. And I would like more of this, please. I'm not saying Tony Gilroy should make every Star Wars thing, although I wouldn't mind if he returns one day and does more Star Wars content. Clearly knows what he's fucking doing and surrounds himself with the right people. But man, they should strive for something like this in the future. I would love that. But overall, Andor Season 2, Andor as a whole, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. Some of the best Star Wars content ever made. It improves Rogue One and the original trilogy across the board. And it changes my perception of certain things in a really unique and positive way that I did not expect. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. What about you guys? What did you think of Andor? What do you think of these last few episodes, especially with Luthen and Clea? I'm very curious to hear people's opinions on them as well. And just, do you think Andor just adds more to the original films in Rogue One? I certainly think so. But let me know.
5 minutes later.
Ace Rox is studying where Cassian has now become my favorite Star Wars character. Han's number 2 now. Cassian's definitely one of my favorites. I love Cassian. Love him. Because I hate Rogue One, I love him. Really, I really like both. I think Andor is better than Rogue One, but I still really like Rogue One. Alan Tudyk is a joy and a jewel. He really is great. There's every scene he has, every line he has, it's so perfect. It's like, God, I love this droid. Love him. It's the real prequel trilogy. Yeah, that Cassian Andor Season 1, Season 2, and Rogue One that's the real prequel trilogy. Yes, Andor. Andor makes Star Wars deeper than the franchise has led on. Yeah, it makes it so much deeper, so much deeper. It's so fulfilling. You still haven't given up on Star Wars? Listen. As bad as a thing can get for a long-lasting franchise, and you can throw out Marvel, you can throw out DC, you can throw out Star. I mean, so many, right? And you could get all these horrible movies, but if you just get someone in there that, even if they're not even a huge fan of the product, which Tony Gilroy said, like, I'm not a big Star Wars guy. Like, he watched original movies, but he's not like a super fan by any stretch of the imagination. But if you just get someone in there that knows how to tell a story, find something interesting about that world and those characters, is like, I have something to say. And who is also just really intelligent, knows what they're doing, has a proven track record, is a great storyteller, is a great writer, prioritizes, characters, all that stuff. You can revitalize anything. You can tell a good story in a dying franchise or anything else. Like, Andor proves that. And so, yeah, no, am I apathetic to, like, the future of Star Wars? Like, listen, like, I don't know what the future of Star Wars is going to be. Like, I feel like Andor might be an enigma. This might be a one and done, that's it. And after this, it's just going to be Dave Filoni. We're going to get Darth Maul. They're bringing back Darth Maul for a third fucking time. He's died twice. It's like, why we keep going back to the well. We're doing that. We're doing Mandalorian Grogu. It's like, Jesus. Like, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm really not. But I will absolutely call out something that's great and that's good. If it proves to be, like, of quality, and Andor certainly is. And so, yeah, if something catches my eye, if I feel like this is good, I'm going to recommend it. So I think you should watch Andor. I think it's great. Andor gave me the same sense of joy in production that Skeleton gave me. You could feel these artists really enjoy working together and had genuine love for the project. I listen, I tried to watch Skeleton Crew. I got about, like, halfway through, and it wasn't even necessarily bad. It didn't grab me. the way I think Andor did, But a lot of people like Skeleton Crew. I know a lot of people did, but the Andor, it's what I needed. It's what I needed, personally. Andor is solid. Not many Star Wars shows or films can say. Yeah, it's true, and it's just not Star Wars based on Star Wars. I think that's the thing that makes Andor as good as it is. And the best Star Wars content as good as it is. It's just not basing on everything that's come from the past. It's not like a fucking retread. It's legitimately doing something new. And I think that's so great. So I love it. Also, the Andor humanized the Star Wars universe. Yes, with having people get mad at the Empire just by being human. That's something I didn't like about Legends, where just made the rebellion just all focused on being Army of the Jedi and how Starkiller from the Force. I hate all that. I am not a Starkiller fan. I've never been a Starkiller fan. And it's like I started with him. It's like fucking lame. It's like from Force Unleashed started. I'm low-key glad. Me too, 100%. I never like Starkiller. He's like the Goku of the Star Wars universe. I mean, you look back, you can see that the Force compelled Cassian along a path the whole time, but while you're watching him, it's a bit... Yeah, no, exactly. And listen, the Force is really brought up only a couple times in this, and it's so subtle, but it works so well. It's not like we're going to jingle-jangle some fucking keys in front of you. Here's, goddamn, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here's lightsabers. Here's Anakin Skywalker. It doesn't do that at all. It never jingle-jangles keys. And I loved it for that. It was never clear to me how Dedra found them was just accumulation of investigation. It was that, but also I don't want to say too much, but she brings in something that's literally from the first. He was like, "Oh, climb!" Oh, I know, I love that. Need more Tudyk. I know that's what's so great. It's like these last couple episodes where they really bring in K2SO. It's like, God, he's such a fun character, and it leaves you wanting more, which I think is a better feeling than not wanting to have him. So. I mean, they went into Rogue One. It was like watching a new film. Sure. Rebel Mill and Hope. We need a spin-off about Cyril. Mother goes, yeah, I loved her. You mean Melshi? Sorry, did I call him Moshi? I keep calling him Moshi by accident. Melshi, thank you. Hey, I'm ice cream dessert. Yeah, the Dedra's fate was great. You can't stop the signal. That's what he says. Yeah. I don't think they should do any kinds of spin-offs of Andor. Let it be. It's perfect. Yeah, and they can. I think they will. But, we'll see. Let's have a story turn to some space version. We got some story. I mean, this is I really don't agree with the people that are saying like Andor's not Star Wars. It's like, so are the prequel Star Wars? Even though those are of lesser quality. I think Andor absolutely is a Star Wars. It's just doing something different, and I think that's okay. It's still within the Star Wars universe. It's still like it's the technology, aesthetic. I mean, it's all that. You're seeing even familiar characters from the past, although they're not just there for fucking member berries. I still love it. I mean, I would love it if they want to take this level of craftsmanship and storytelling and stuff and do that with Jedi and Sith or whatever. Sure, please, with KOTOR, please. I would love that. But Andor is still very much Star Wars through and through, 100%. I would argue even more than the prequels, because unlike the prequels, which actively took away, and I will say this forever, the prequels hurt the franchise. Like it demystified aspects of Star Wars. 100% it did. Andor does not demystify it. It expands on Star Wars. It makes it more rich. So I would make an argument that Andor is more Star Wars than the prequels are. I'll just see them do something like Andor for Rogue Squadron. You could do a lot over a huge time. Sure. I'm telling you, I look forward to the Tony Gordon miniseries about the many Bothans who died getting the second Death Star plans with credit time. Probably. Those fucking Bothans, baby. Somehow, Maul has returned again. A third fucking time. More than any character. Is it before or after he died in Rebels? I don't know. Maul is a cyborg crab? Now he has to be a cyborg crab. Oh, man. I hate Mom. You find out what happens to him, too. But that was really funny. 100%, I'm with you. I love it. I'm just saying, principle, if they could do that. Oh, no. I see what you're saying. I think they would do much more with regular stories. Yeah, if they want to do like a Jedi or Sith story, but it's of this like level, yes, do that, please. I would love it. If Knights of the Republic got this level of craftsmanship. If they were to actually do a Knights of the Republic series of films, or even a TV show, but with this. Like Andor? Oh my God. I would love it. I'd be very hopeful for it. I think that'd be wonderful. Yeah. So, but yeah, Andor's great. I don't really, I mean, the worst thing I could say about it, although it's so worth in the end. Is it a slow burn at times? Yes. But it's just like the conversations, all these characters. That's the thing. Like Star Wars, even the original trilogy, even though like, rewatching the original trilogy, there is good dialogue and there is good exchanges between these people. There's that absolutely is. But there is some dialogue that's like, yeah. There is some stuff that's like, that's not that, I've noticed it more so in Return of the Jedi, which is the weaker of the, I still love Return of the Jedi, but in Jedi I was like, okay. You could see Lucas he had a lot more control over that movie, over poor Richard Marquand than he did of Irving Kershner, who kind of said, yeah, thanks, George. Irving Kershner was essentially like rewriting that film as they were going with Harrison Ford, which I thought was very funny. But there's, but a critique of a lot of Star Wars, especially the prequel era going forward, was just the dialogue fucking sucks. And Andor, the dialogue is so good. It's so good. There's so many moments I can point to. Like, that was amazing. This is amazing. So many speeches, people, so many monologues, so many intense conversations, I love that. And just how it changes my perception of the Empire and what they were and what the Death Star means, It's just like, that's the thing I keep going back to. I'm just like, the Death Star is... yeah, it's this weapon or whatever, but it's literally that's all they have. It's the only thing it's the idea of control. It's the idea of fear. And once that's gone, they're fucked. It's over. It really is. It's the beginning of the end. It's their fall essentially. It's just like, God, I think that's so interesting. I never thought of it that way before. And the other thing I like about Andor is just so somber. Too. I keep going back to that as well. Just these like really quiet, sad moments in the show, and a lot of people die in this series. A lot of people. You don't think they'll be okay? Nope, they're dead. It's like fuck, And they don't die like a lot of them don't die heroically. A lot of them die like forgotten, scared, terrified out of their minds. Whether it be heroes or villains. And I thought that was really cool. I really love that. Awesome. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance. Oh, yeah, this is Luthen's speech, Stellan Skarsgård's speech. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. Give all chance in her peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my willingness to yield, my eagerness to fight. They set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise, and I know I'll never see. I love that line, sunrise I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror audience or the light of gratitude. Yeah, he's right. He's fucking right. So what do I sacrifice? Everything! You'll stay with me, Lonnie. That's so true. I need all the heroes I can get. Yeah. Yeah, man. He is. All of his scenes are great. And I love it, like, again, not to get into spoilers, but like Cassian, despite their tumultuous relationship, I love that there's like a scene in one episode where like Cassian, it's in the last episode where he fucking defends Luthen. Where you have like a lot of the rebels. There's some people that you see from Rogue One. And also another thing, I should have mentioned this. Benjamin Bratt, he replaces Jimmy Smits because Jimmy Smits wasn't available. There was scheduling conflicts, and so he plays Bail Organa. I loved like Cassian's confrontation with Bail Organa and some of these other like rebel leaders, and they're like, Luthen, whatever, fuck him, and he's like, fuck you. He goes off on them. I love that. He's given more. You people have given a fraction of what he's given. Over all these years, you wouldn't be sitting there on your fat asses right now without him. And I was just like, hell fucking yeah, Cass. I thought that was so good. Sadly, chat, my one last thing I will say, the one last tragic thing is we don't see Bo Gullet in Andor. There is no Bo Gullet. And I thought, are we going to get a fucking Bo Gullet scene? It's like, nope, no Bo Gullet. Such a weird thing. Probably like one of the weirdest moments in Rogue One. It's like, you could remove this. This is fine. I just love the way. Oh, yeah. And then they bring back Saw Gerrera and stuff. And it was really great to have Forrest Whitaker. And you see him just get crazier and crazier and crazier as the series goes on. It's like, okay, you got to reason this guy. By the end, he's out of his fucking mind. He's fucking snuffing space gas or whatever. He's like Dennis Hopper from Blue Velvet. Like, this is not good. This is a bad thing. They got to deal with his crazy ass. But I thought he's gonna mention Bo Gullet. No Bo Gullet mentioned. 0 out of 10. Worst show ever. Yeah, that's my one critique. We need Bo Gullet. Bo Gullet. Krennic, who is such a weaselly little character in, throughout the events of Rogue One, being one of the minds behind the creation of the Death Star, him just being so out of his mind, and his egomaniac, his narcissism on full display. They really do some great stuff with him this season. He's peppered throughout all these arcs, and they do some great stuff here. He has some really intense scenes in these last 3 episodes, especially with Dedra. He does some crazy shit with her. A lot of it feels like it was improvised, and like Dedra's actor she was like surprised of like, I don't want to say exactly what it is, but he like puts his hands on her in a way that was like, whoa. It was kind of crazy. But I loved it. And they made him like really intimidating, which is so fascinating because when we see him in Rogue One, he's so slimy, and he's kind of getting slapped around by Tarkin and Vader, of course. But it's like here, it's like, oh, they made him scary, which I thought was really, really cool. And then it just shows you like just how powerful Tarkin is. It shows you just how powerful Vader is, where it's like, oh yeah, this guy who is we're scary in Andor. Well, guess what? There's people even scarier than him. Again, it improves the Rogue One. It improves the original trilogy by making him very intimidating and powerful in Andor. So, great job, Ben Mendelsohn, coming back as Krennic. They do some really cool things with him. I loved it a lot. But now CGI Tarkin. Yeah. She actually talked about that. Yes, it was improv. She had no clue. That's why. No wonder, because it was like, God damn, the stuff that he's doing is like, Jesus. Grant's a tough guy of his subordinates while he's a little bitch around. Yeah, because he's such a little worm. He's always like, will you tell the Emperor and all that? And oh God, you're totally right. But he's a fucking bully. He's totally a bully, where he's like, if you have a lower rank than him, God, he'll mock you. He also has a great moment with, what's his name? Pendergast? Pendergast? Partagast. I love that actor, Partagast. Where they have him like a kind of a brief moment of respect, and where like, we're fucked, aren't we? And he's like, yeah, we're fucked. I gotta go to Scare. Which I thought was really cool. That was really, really cool. But yeah, Krennic's a total little bitch, a little bully. But they still make him scary. Oh, he calls him Leo. That's right. Yeah, first name basis. So it's like, oh, that's cool. So they do know each other.